All right, another session officially in the books. The boys have played 4 rounds now. Fedor won the first 3 coming into today. And if you remember on our last review, the impression I got from the key hands was that Wiktor was overfolding. So it'll be interesting to see in this recap video if that remains to be true against a guy, Fedor, who in a lot of spots is actually overbluffing. So a bad combination, your opponent's overbluffing, and you're overfolding. So let's take a look here at the first hand. Now this first hand is the most standard heads-up hand you could possibly imagine. Standard open, standard 3-bet, standard call. Okay. The only thing that's maybe slightly off standard is the turn. Bet sizing, okay. It goes with small. You're going to bet small a lot of the time. Now this turn card you could go several ways. It's not a great turn card playing this deep for Fedor. He's actually supposed to check a lot on that turn with a big part of his range. He elects to go 2/3, and of course the easy call for Wiktor there, and he hits the 7. And now Fedor is just totally trapped. He's gonna just go all in, and Wiktor does, just press call. Easy game, It's easy when it comes like that. But obviously you see Victor's hand. Some people are like, why did you raise the turn with a big draw? You have a 7. There's no, you have the best hand a lot too with the 7. So Fedor sees the bad news. He was value betting and didn't get it. Okay, so now Fedor is going to 3-bet the ace-jack and then call with the ace-jack for the 4-bet. This one you don't always call with, okay? I mean, it's not 100% slam dunk call in all situations, but he does call. And on this flop, he definitely has to peel with the jack of spades. Notice Wiktor is betting small on this board here. No spade in his hand. All right, so this is where things get a little more interesting now. 3 spades. Fedor does have the jack of spades. Wiktor does not have a spade. He's going to bet small again, which is something you'll typically see on monotone boards. Because right now, you would expect Fedor to have more flushes in his range than Wiktor, more suited combos. And now on this river, of course, Fedor checks. He's only got 12,000 left. That's a half pot bet. And for Wiktor, this is a slam dunk value bet. He's trying to target a 10, pocket 9s, a stubborn ace high with a spade, an 8, 7-8 suited. What the? That is okay. That's a little weird, okay, to check on this card. Like, Fedor showed, well, I mean, what if Fedor could have jacks? Fedor doesn't have aces or kings. You don't have to worry about that. I mean, sure, he could have some flushes. Part of the thought process is, well, what's he going to call me with, right? Maybe that hand. Maybe ace-jack. You might get, might get curious. I think this is way too nitty to check these queens on this board in a 4-bet pot. In a 4-bet pot, sometimes you just got to get the money in. And there's not a lot of exposure here. It's a $13,000 bet. I guess the question is, do you beat, if he calls, are you going to win? Right? And I think you are going to win often enough. So I think you should have bet here. That was, I don't know, a little gun shy. I've been there, but I wouldn't have been on that one. All right, so we got the 6-7 suited, 3-betting. Fedor is going to call with ace-5 off. This is something you can do. Or, depending on how you construct your ranges, some people just fold the ace-5. Other people will often flat and sometimes even 4-bet. And he does 4-bet with the ace-5 off, okay? So that's an interesting play. And then, of course, for Wiktor, not the best hand in the world. Actually, but this hand is better to call with than, oddly enough, against the 4-bet 9-10 suited. Because 9-10 suited, you're dominated against a lot of the 4-betting hands, a lot more than 6-7 is. And he's really not doing that too often with hands like 8s or 9s. That doesn't 4-bet very often. So 6-7 suited, a fine call. Now he flops a pair. And oh, this is interesting. Okay, so this is something I saw Doug do against me, and I'd never found it in the solvers as being a thing all that often. It's a very rare find. If you're finding this as being really, really sharp, then you're searching very, very hard because it's very difficult to find any leads in 4-bet pots. But certainly with this hand, for this price, I mean, you notice he's betting 15% pot. So this is a thing, clearly. If these guys have studied, they found some sharpness here. So for Fedor, he just has a flat. I don't think he really wants to raise with his hand right now. Just a flat call. All right, turn card. It's a decent one for Wiktor. Now Victor's going to bet small again. And Fedor kind of just has to call here. Fedor has the ace of hearts, as you can see, so he could represent some backdoor hearts. He's got the pair of 5s, which beats the 9-10, 9-jack type hands. He beats like some, flush draws and different things like that. So now for Wiktor on that card, he's kind of hates it. You know, king is not good for him, but he likes to check this card. And now interesting play from Fedor. When Wiktor checks, you have some showdown ability, right? Because you beat some give-ups, like 10 high, jack high type stuff. But Fedor is like really perceptive here and figures, you know what? I think he's checking with a showdownable hand that's better than mine. So he fires the 15K. And for Wiktor, man, I mean, for Wiktor, now you got to go through the range of 4-betting hands that you lose. I mean, that you can beat, right? You beat the 9-10, Jack 9 suited or Jack 10 type hands, which I guess could warrant a call. You don't have a spade in your hand, but he's gonna lay this one down. And as we can see once again, Fedor not afraid to put the chips in the pot, and he makes a very good bluff. You know, turns bottom pair into a bluff, and you know gets the 7 to fold. So here we have a hand where 8 deuce of clubs, standard open, standard call with the queen 10. It's gonna go check, and he's betting small here on this board. You can mix sizes there. You can bet third, or you can bet 67% as well. Now he's got the flush, and he's betting full pot. Now that's not typically a thing, especially after 30% on the flop. Monotone boards typically prefer smaller sizing. Having said that, this isn't a mistake clearly, but just generally speaking, for Fedor here against pot size bet, he's got to start worrying now, okay? Because does he beat a value betting range from Wiktor? Does Wiktor bet pot with a worse hand than this? That's a value bet? I don't think so. So he's in bluff catcher territory with the queen 10. Sounds crazy, I know, but for that size, this is bluff catcher territory. Okay, so now the river's a blank. Fedor is going to check, and we're going to see an overbet here from Wiktor, 7,600. All right, so now if you're Fedor, you got to think of like, all right, I beat bluffs. That's it. There's no middling hands. Now the question is, do I have a good hand to call a bluff with? Don't have a club. It's not good. You know, because if you have a club, it cuts a bunch of the value combos. It goes from 45 possible flush combos to just 36. The 10 of spades, is that a good card to have? Nah, not really. Because the 10 of spades blocks 10 jack, 8-10, 7-10. Some hands that Wiktor could barrel with, especially if he has a club in his hand with, you know, like a 10 and the 7 of clubs and stuff like that. So Fedor's hand is a pure bluff catcher. All right, let's see what Fedor does do. I think Fedor gets suspicious here. Fedor really tanking on this one. Can't blame him. Tough spot. And Wiktor gets paid big with his flush. And Fedor decides to make the call. Again, probably not the best candidate for a call, but I mean, it is top pair, so it can't be all that bad. All right, so now we got top pair for Wiktor and a set for Fedor. Typically what you'll find, solvers, especially heads up, they want you to fast play. You flop set, you bet, you raise. And that's exactly what Fedor does. You know, really hoping, especially with the bottom or middle set, because you're really hoping to target top pair. And in this case, he's got Wiktor right where he wants him. Cannot go nowhere. Wiktor does not have a diamond in his hand. So there's a whole bunch of hands Fedor could have, like 4-7 of diamonds, you know, even a, you know, like gut shot and 1 diamond, all kinds of bluffs he could have. So now on this river, he makes queens and nines. The question is, okay, Fedor's got a pot size bet left. That goes all in. Wiktor just has a slam dunk call, and he sees the bad news. That's cooler. Literally nothing you could do different there. I mean, from each side, I think it's, yeah. Sometimes you're just going to lose the money. Hey, he gets the bad beat GG care. Thanks, GG. Okay, we got ace jack here. Now, this is interesting because ace jack at 100 big blinds, when you're playing heads up, you want to 3-bet that. Almost always. 200, I guess you can make a case for doing a little bit more flatting because it doesn't play as well when you're deep. And that's exactly what Wiktor does. And they take a flop, and now he flops as good as he can, really. Against the big bet, you don't typically raise big bets as often as you do smaller bets. But if you are, you know, this is certainly a candidate that can do that. And he's going to check raise bigger size. Notice, I mean, they are deeper now, but like he was making it 1,800 in these spots earlier, but that's likely a function of how deep they are. So raise size for him is getting bigger. Now this king of diamonds on the turn, as we can see, it's a bad card for what Wiktor actually has, right? But it's a good card for his range because, again, we've talked about this. On flops, when there's 2 diamonds and stuff like this, a flop check raise, a big part of that range is going to contain 2 diamonds. So actually a fine card for him to bet again if he chooses. But instead, what you'll see is he gives up the lead and Fedor seizes on the opportunity. So now, if you look at Fedor's hand, Fedor has the bottom of his range. Actually, he didn't seize yet. He could actually bet this turn and just plow it through. But I mean, he doesn't have a diamond, so, you know, probably a good one to just check back and maybe try to delay bluff. So now the river's the queen of diamonds. Okay, so this is a really bad card for Wiktor, right? Wiktor's like, oh my god, now I can't beat queen. I can't beat anything, right? Can't beat queen 10, queen 9, ace 10, 9, 10, a diamond. None of those hands. So he's going to, of course, check. And now, Wiktor's going to bet 3,300. So this is interesting now, okay? Because here's the thing. When Fedor bets this size, is he saying I have a king? No. Is he saying I hit a queen with 4 diamonds on the board? Is he really betting a queen for value? No, that's too thin. Does he have a worse jack? I don't think so. So notice what's happening. The range of real value at this point for Fedor is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So what that does is it means the ratio to bluffs, the bluffs are much, much higher. So for him to bet, he's really saying flush or jacks are good. Suspicious to Wiktor. So Wiktor is going to make, and again, we said he was over folding up until in the last session. This time he makes a very good call. Fedor finally gets caught with his hand in the proverbial cookie jar. Okay, here we go. Ace king now against 2 7s. Raise, 3-bet, call, standard stuff, standard flop. GG. Here comes a GG. Thanks, GG. GG care coming because this is going to be a cooler. So now, okay, small bet with ace king, call. Now he's got the absolute nuts. This is not a bad spot to check. You're going to mix. Sometimes you'll bet, but I like check. And against the bet here, you just call. Figure Fedor is going to bet every ace on the river and get it in that way. He does. He jams, and obviously Wiktor has the nuts. So unlucky there for Fedor. I mean, absolute cooler. He flopped the nuts, and then, Wiktor turned the nuts. Cooler. There it is. The GG care cooler. Thanks, GG. All right, so here's another interesting one. Fedor raising with the kings. Jack 7 flatting. Totally standard heads up. Check. That's small. Wiktor's going to raise, again, pretty good size. 4 times the bet up to 1,200. Fedor, he just has a slam dunk call here. Turn is a 9. Now, that's an interesting card because this card for Wiktor, he's going to have some hands like 9-5, 9-8, 9-10. So, so if you're Fedor here, you think, okay, if you had just ace high, for example, you'd be really concerned by that card and probably have to fold. But he does have king, so he beats all the hands that I mentioned. And he's going to go for the small 1/3 size bet. And this is enticing for Fedor. So Fedor decides to raise the turn. Now, in the old days, we used to call this finding out where you're at, right? I don't think that's what Fedor is doing here. I think Fedor is value betting. I think Fedor feels like a big part of, Wiktor's range, the way he's played this with small bet is like a 6 or a 9. So he's trying to get value against draws and things like that. And he goes ahead and makes the raise. He's also going to have to do this sometimes with bluffs. So if you are going to bluff raise this turn, you want to have some value. Kings is reasonable to do that with. Now, the thing that gets interesting, things get interesting on the river, actually. So now on this river, when Wiktor checks, Fedor, this is kind of thin. I know it seems crazy. Well, how is kings thin? Because as played, we'll see, he's going to tank here, and then he's going to make the call. You're definitely going to call. So this is a thin one from Fedor. He's targeting specifically like a 9 or maybe a really stubborn 6. But as played, I mean, Wiktor did check raise the flop, called the raise on the turn. So a lot of his range is going to be a 7 or a draw that never calls, right? So when you factor that in, you value cut yourself when he has a 7. You get no value when he missed the draw. So you're really just hoping he has a 9 or a 6. 6 is not all that likely to be played this way. So really just a 9. You're really putting all your eggs in one basket, and that's that he has a 9, and he's going to pay it off. I mean, he can have straights here. He can have, like if he had 5-8 or 8-10, those are other hands you can't beat. So I know kings looks pretty, but for a pot size bet, I think that's a little too thin. Hope you guys enjoyed that one. I enjoyed covering the match. Hope to get back in the ring myself pretty soon. Heads Up Poker, it's back. Thanks to GG Care for all the help with the bad beats and the coolers and all that kind of stuff. Only at GG do they care. Thanks, GG.